All right, so we are doing our holiday break video. What I'm showing you today is basically what we did to seal the floor and the walls on our metal building. Now, your contractor may run this a little differently than ours did. Ours said, don't put any sealer on the bottom of the rails because we have to move them around in order to install the building. So he recommended that we actually add the sealer, the concrete sealer, around the perimeter after the fact. So what we did is we got the building put up, and then we came in with a calk sealer to go around the base perimeter of the building because we are getting water intrusion inside of there on these sides that are on the hardcore concrete. So that is the very first thing we did. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that. It's about as fun as watching paint dry, but hey, it works. Okay, so we got that done, and we waited about 3 or 4 days for that to dry. We tried to do this in warmer weather, so we waited to put the caulk in when the temperatures outside were in the mid to low 70s, and we also were kind of excited because the building generates one heck of a lot of heat, which made it warmer inside the building when we were doing it. One thing I will say that I noticed is it seems as though the caulk did shrink a little bit, probably from the cold or possibly being in the pool if you're a Seinfeld fan. And we had a problem with it wanting to shrink away at the top, so we did have to go back in a couple of areas and reapply different concrete sealer because, well, we had a problem with it wanting to pull away. All right, now I'm going to move on to what we used to do the floor because this is the thing I really did a lot of research on and looking for what I wanted to use, and that is the Legacy sealer that I'm showing you right here. This sealer was one that I liked because I didn't want to do a paint. My experience personally with paint is it's a lot to do for the application of it. It takes a while for it to dry, and then in the long run, if you don't do things exactly correctly, you're going to end up with it peeling up and coming up off the floor. There are companies out there who will apply this stuff for you, but my opinion on that is that you're going to be spending about $4 grand, $3 grand for somebody to come in and do the same work you could do yourself. And I really don't care for them enough to actually use them. It's not that I think paints are bad. There's a lot of guys out there that use them, and if you want to put paint on your floor, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good way to keep from getting oil stains and stuff, but I will say that they tend to mark, and it tends to be a little bit harder for them to hold up over time if you're doing a lot of hardcore working on the floor. So the Legacy product that we're using is just a sealer, and it's a hydrophobic, and it has another hydro thing that it's a phobic of. But basically it's water resistant and oil resistant. The water resistance is higher than the oil resistance, but it will do just fine for what we're doing around here on the norm. The product is nice and easy. As long as that floor is clean, you don't have a lot of dust laying around, you're going to be fine. So what we did is we took our lawn leaf blower, went inside the building, and just blew as much of the dust up off the floor as we could, as well as the debris. And then we moved through there and systematically also went in for a final sweep after we did that. And you'll be amazed how much stuff you can still pick up with a nice, tight, broad push broom in a case like that. So after we did that, we did exactly what the manufacturer recommends. We did a 10 by 10 square for each section of it and moved through it like that. The stuff does dry pretty quickly, so you want to move with pretty good speed. We used a roller in places that we had standing material, and the roller actually helps us to move that material around and get it to lay out flatter in an area. And other than that, that's it. And the stuff, it's hydrophobic. You'll pour a little bit of water on it and it just puddles up now. It doesn't dissipate into the concrete. My main goal here is to keep water out of the building, but also keep water from being in the concrete when we're in the building and we're working to keep things safe. But what you get is you don't have a problem with the floor being slippery like you could with some paints. If you're going to do a paint system on your floor, I do recommend getting a matte paint rather than a gloss. The gloss can get slippery, and unless you have non-skid shoes that you're wearing out there, you could have a slip and fall out there, and you might break a hip or something like that. We don't want that to happen to you. So my recommendation is to mat the floor if you're doing paint. But if you're doing the Legacy product like we did, you don't have to worry about it because this floor retains its original grit. We're probably even going to go in and put it on the outside out here on the outside concrete. The stuff is fully rated for outside use. So we'll put it out here for when we're doing cleanups on undercarriages and things like that so that the floor stays in nice condition. Well, that's this little bitty show for the week, folks. I wanted to give you an update on what we're doing with the shop. We are still waiting on our power box to come in, our meter box for the building that we're going to be putting out here for power. We have to dig the ditch, we have to go in and lay the wire, then we have to put the box up, and then we have to run the power, then we have to run power to this building, and then we have to do electricity inside. So you get the idea that this is not going to be a whippity-doo-dah 5-second job. We may be mid-December before we actually get in there. Do me a favor, folks, go out and check out our Patreon account. At the $10 a month level, you get monthly meetings with me on Zoom, and we're going through and doing some things to try to make our Patreon a little bit more fun for the guys that are involved. We're looking at different ways of making that happen. But you get also tech from us, one tech piece a month. If you're at the $10 a month level, we send you out a little notification. You're the only people that get that particular video. These aren't really big videos yet. We're going to be working into more and more as time goes on. The other thing I'd like for you to do is subscribe to the channel. If you do that, click the bell for notification. That way you'll get everything we do on the show with Manic Mechanic and Autorestomod. Manic Mechanic has now moved to Sundays. We're testing that out because according to YouTube, that is the best place for us to post all of our videos. I'm just not going to do that yet because I'm not convinced that they're absolutely right, because it seems like it doesn't make any difference in the numbers. But I digress. You guys have a great week. Be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Autorestomod. Rusty, he's telling us about it today. The dogs, it's always going to be something. If we didn't have dogs and we didn't have Rusty the rooster, we'd have a guy who perpetually cut down trees in his backyard and sawed up lumber, or somebody out there working on a musket in the afternoons and shooting that sucker off every 5 seconds. It just, something's going to be in the background. You're going to have noise. Kids playing in a pool. Four-wheelers driving up and down the road. Welcome to living in a neighborhood. You guys have a great week.